From paper to click, how RBI's E-Cheque plan could change India's payment system. Imagine this. One day, a message appears on your phone saying that you have issued a cheque to someone, even though you never even touched a cheque book. You didn't pick up a pen, you didn't sign anything, you didn't go to the bank, and yet a payment instruction still got created. And that is exactly where the fear begins. Because in a country like India, where digital payments have brought speed, fraud has also found new ways to grow. And in the middle of this fear, this speed, and this changing era, RBI has put forward a proposal that sounds both old and futuristic at the same time. E-Cheque. The question is, when UPI, IMPS, and F10 cards already exist, why is there even a need to digitize Cheques? And is this just a proposal or the next big turning point in the world of payments? On March 27, 2026, RBI released its Payments Vision 2028. The theme of this document is shaping India's payment frontier, and its focus is not just on increasing digital payments, but on making them safer, more accountable, more flexible, and more business-friendly. According to the official report by News on AIR, this roadmap sets the direction up to December 2028. That means RBI is not just looking at today's payment problems. It is thinking about what India's payment ecosystem should look like by 2028. Now, the most interesting thing here is that RBI, in this vision document, did not talk about completely eliminating the traditional paper cheque. Instead, it talked about combining its unique benefits with the speed and reliability of digital systems. Under this line of thinking, RBI said that the feasibility of introducing the electronic cheque or E-Cheque in India will be examined. In other words, this is not a final launch yet, but the central bank is seriously considering how a trusted instrument like the cheque can be transformed into an electronic form. RBI's logic is clear. Paper instruments still offer certain features that remain useful for people and businesses, but in terms of processing speed, tracking, and fraud control, digital systems are stronger. So the future of the cheque may not be finished, but transformed. Now the question arises, what is it about cheques that still makes them relevant even in 2026? The answer is very practical. Even today in many businesses, institutions, rent agreements, post-dated commitments, legal documentation, high-value trust-based transactions, and certain formal payment relationships, the psychological and documentary value of a cheque still remains. A cheque is not just a payment. It is also seen as written proof of commitment. That is why the world of paper cheques has not disappeared completely. But its weaknesses are also obvious. Lost cheques, forged signatures, delayed clearing, physical movement, tampering, duplicate presentation, stop payment disputes, and settlement delays. RBI's E-Cheque proposal seems to be aimed at filling exactly this gap, where the formal seriousness of a cheque remains, but digital efficiency arrives with it. If you step back a little, India's payment revolution came in many phases. First cash dominated, then cheques, then electronic fund transfer systems, then cards, and then UPI changed the entire map. According to recent public reports linked to RBI, India today accounts for around 48.5% of global real-time payments. This is no small achievement. It means that nearly half of all real-time digital payments in the world are happening in India. But look at the irony. The larger the ecosystem becomes, the larger the attack surface becomes too. In other words, as convenience grows, fraud risk, system responsibility, and regulatory complexity also grow. Payments Vision 2028 is a document born out of this maturity phase. In this document, RBI did not talk only about e-cheques. It also sent a broader message that the payment ecosystem is no longer limited to just banks and payment apps. Now e-commerce marketplaces, centralized digital platforms, gateways, aggregators, switching infrastructure, cross-border connectors, and fintech-like layers are all influencing payment flows. That is why the document also says that the role of such entities will be examined in detail, and if needed, the regulatory ambit may be expanded to bring them under direct regulation as well. That is a very big signal. It means RBI understands that in the payment chain, the entity visible to the customer is not always the final risk holder. Many times, the real control lies with another layer. That is why Payments Vision 2028 is not just a technology document. It is also an accountability document. Until now, the average customer assumed that if money was lost or stuck, the bank was responsible. But in the digital world, the issuer bank, beneficiary bank, payment app, switch, merchant, platform, settlement layer, and fraudster can all have different roles. RBI has recognized this complexity and proposed a shared responsibility framework. According to an Economic Times report, in cases of unauthorized digital transactions, a shared liability framework is being considered involving both the issuing bank and the beneficiary bank. In simple language, that means fraud will no longer be brushed aside as just the customer's mistake or one bank's problem. The chain of responsibility is being widened. What makes this even more serious is RBI's recent push on fraud compensation. Reuters reported on March 6, 2026, that RBI had issued a draft compensation framework for victims of digital fraud, proposing a model for compensation in small value fraud losses. According to that report, customers would have to report the fraud within a timeline, and a contribution structure involving both RBI and banks was being considered. This shows that Payments Vision 2028 is not an isolated idea. It is actually the next step in a consumer protection direction that has been developing for months. In other words, RBI now wants not just digital adoption, but also digital trust. Now think about where e-Cheque fits into this ecosystem. If a Cheque becomes electronic, what could change? First, physical handling would reduce. The clearing cycle could become faster. Issuing, validation, presentation, and audit trails could become more structured. The possibility of tampering could reduce. Risks like duplicate submission or physical alteration could fall. And in business use cases, documentation and payment instructions could be more tightly integrated. In other words, an e-Cheque would not just be a PDF version of a Cheque. If brought in with the right architecture, it could become a hybrid bridge between a paper instrument and a digital workflow. That is probably what RBI is hinting at when it talks about the benefits of paper-based instruments plus the speed and reliability of digital payments. There is another subtle but very important point here. India's payment ecosystem has become cashless very quickly, but not every user in it is fully digital first. Many senior citizens, institutions, legal contract users, traditional businesses, and certain formal sectors still feel more comfortable with cheque-like instruments. If shifting such users fully into a UPI-style flow is difficult, then e-Cheque could become a transition tool. That means RBI may not just be thinking of a new product. It may be building a layered payment future for an India where people are comfortable with different levels of digital trust. This is important because India's financial inclusion story cannot rest on a single app or a single rail. It will need multiple formats of trust. Another interesting proposal in Payments Vision 2028 is the switch-on switch-off facility across digital payment modes. Today, many users can already turn their debit or credit card transactions on and off through apps. RBI now wants similar user control to be available across other digital payment modes as well. That means the customer should be able to decide whether UPI stays active, whether net banking remains active, whether certain transaction channels should remain on or off. This feature may sound small, but its effect on security psychology can be huge. Because the fight against fraud is not won only through back-end AI or bank monitoring, user control matters just as much. If the customer can exercise granular control over payment rails, the risk of unauthorized usage can drop. Now look at this from the perspective of an ordinary person. Suppose you have 3 active payment channels: UPI, card, and net banking. If you are not traveling abroad, you might want international use turned off. If you don't make high-value transfers at night, you might want restrictions during that window. If you rarely use Cheques, you might want e-Cheque permission to be transaction-specific. This is the real meaning of future payments. Not just pay fast, but pay with control. RBI's vision appears to be moving in exactly this direction of control architecture. After digital convenience, the era of digital sovereignty is beginning, where the user is no longer just a consumer, but also an active manager of settings. The document also talks about payment switching service or PASS. According to reports by Livmint and News on AIR, the aim is to make migration between platforms easier for customers and reduce switching friction in the payments ecosystem. If implemented properly, customers and merchants in the future may be able to move out of platform lock-ins more easily. That would mean more competition, better interoperability, and less dependency. In today's digital world, getting locked into one ecosystem is easy. Getting out is difficult. Thinking like PASS could move payments toward portability. Similarly, the proposal for TDS interoperability could be very significant for the MSME ecosystem. The purpose of the trade receivables discounting system is to help MSMEs monetize invoices faster. But if different platforms do not work smoothly with each other, efficiency breaks down. The talk of increasing interoperability in Payments Vision 2028 is aimed precisely at this bottleneck. Its direct impact could fall on small businesses, because for them, payment delay is not just an accounting issue. It is a survival issue. When RBI places TDS, switching, fraud liability, and e-Cheque together in one Payments Vision, it becomes clear that it wants to take retail consumers, merchants, MSMEs, and institutions all along at once. Exploring possibilities for APs under white label solutions is also part of this broader agenda of inclusion. APS, or Aadhaar-enabled payment system, has played an important role in rural and assisted transactions. If new operational possibilities like a white label model are opened up inside it, service reach, access points, and ecosystem innovation could grow. But at the same time, issues like fraud, consent, authentication quality, and grievance redressal would become equally serious. That is why the real significance of Vision 2028 lies not in the list of innovations, but in the attempt to keep innovation and oversight together. Now let us return to e-Cheque. Why is this proposal such a big deal? Because a Cheque is not just a payment instrument. It is an old symbol of trust. In India, Cheque bounce law, the culture of signed instruments, post-dated Cheque practices, rent security usage, institutional disbursals, and certain corporate workflows have ensured that the Cheque is not just a slip of paper. It has also remained a sign of legal seriousness. If RBI transforms this instrument into an electronic form, it will not just be digitizing a legacy tool. It will be translating an old trust of the formal economy into a new format. That is exactly what makes India's fintech story uniquely Indian. It is not always the story of breaking the old and building the new, but often of evolving the old into the new. But caution is necessary too. Even if e-Cheque is launched, it will not replace paper Chicos overnight. First, there will be a feasibility study. Then questions around legality, operations, authentication, storage, dispute handling, standardization, and bank readiness will arise. Will e-Cheque use something like a digital signature framework? Will it be account holder initiated or institution driven? Will stop payment instructions work differently? Will cheque bounce like legal consequences be part of it? Will it feel like a UPI collect request? Or will it be an entirely separate category? As of now, there are no official detailed answers to these questions. So the truth of the matter is this. RBI has opened the road, but it has not yet given the full map. If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible, but in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.